he finds Zusi. Zusi can have a hit from here. He does. And Graham Zusi re-elect Graham Zusi.
Yeah, so it all, like you said, it all started in Longwood, Florida, where I grew up. Had the pretty similar experience as a lot of young kids at the age of 4, where you just got kind of thrown into rec soccer, and there's a big pack of kids running around the field together, waving to your parents on the sidelines. Yeah, that's kind of where it started. My dad was my coach for my first, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years. He wasn't a soccer guy growing up. He got into it, I think, in college. He had some friends that played soccer, but he probably just drew the short straw as a parent and had to coach the team. But no, it was all about having fun and just being outside and active at the time. And then as I grew up, it just I fell in love with soccer. It was I played so many different sports, probably 5 or 6 different sports growing up, but soccer was the one that always took precedent. It was the one where if there was a conflict, I was always choosing soccer. So yeah, it until college, really, I was always a multi-sport guy, and enjoyed the cross training of different sports. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until college where I just narrowed it down to soccer specifically.
That's something that a lot of guys that come to our tournaments deal with growing up in the States, right? You
Yeah.
try a bunch of sports, eventually you narrow it down to soccer. Do you kind of see that as an advantage to U.S. soccer, or do you think?
I think it certainly can be. I think there's tons of studies out there now as well that show the advantage of the cross-sport athlete. Whether it's, it's basketball, so the hand-eye coordination, soccer, foot-eye coordination. I played lacrosse as well, so all these sports have the specific advantages of that sport that you can then mold together to create kind of like a super athlete, if you will. Everyone has their own path. I tell people all the time that there's not one way of doing it. There's not one way to the pros. I think I needed all of that development growing up. I needed my 4 years of college to get me prepared for the next step of being a professional athlete. So yeah, I get asked all the time by parents with young kids, what should my kid do to be a professional soccer player? I struggle to sit there and tell them one thing because, like I said, everyone's got their own path. There's a million different ways to go about it. But if their kid is passionate enough about the game, if they're willing to put the work in, to sacrifice, that's what's going to get them to the next level.
That's the exact message that we're excited to get out to every kid coming to this game.
Right.
That's what takes it. You want to touch on American sports?
I guess you said obviously all the way up through high school you were playing multiple sports. I kind of want to ask you, obviously the question a lot of people ask, especially in our age, is like, how was the recruiting process?
Sure.
Obviously, like, you were playing other sports, were you looking at other sports? Yeah. Obviously, you were clearly performing pretty well if you were getting looks from Maryland, so like,
yep.
How was that process for you?
Yeah, so I was involved with club soccer growing up, obviously, and it was the typical, you're traveling to tournaments. So grew up in Florida, but we were going to tournaments in North Carolina, New York, Minnesota, Virginia, Maryland, all those surrounding states. And those were all opportunities to be seen by scouts or ODP coaches, and I went through the ODP stuff as well. So just putting yourself in situations where you could be seen by coaches at the next level. And so my specific route, where I was seen by my coaches at Maryland, where I was playing ODP. I played with the region team, and I played in a regional tournament. I can't remember where it was, to be honest, maybe North Carolina. I was seen there, and then from there they went and visited me at other tournaments with my club team. So all of those are great opportunities to be seen. And I think I overheard Roger talking that you have to have the mentality that people are always watching. Every game you play, every training that you have, even individual stuff, have the mentality that people are always watching, and that's a chance for you to potentially get to the next level. And I was invited to play at Maryland. I went up and played actually a camp at the school as well. I think my junior, senior year of high school, and that kind of solidified things for me, and was offered a scholarship to play at the University of Maryland, and took that and continued to develop. I've always been a guy who I never looked too far ahead in my career. It was always like, I was playing club in high school with the ambitions to play college. Once I played college, those ambitions shifted to maybe be able to play professionally. But I was always focused on the here and now, and trying to do my best I possibly could to grow as a player as much as I could in that setting, to be coachable, to learn, to become a stronger player, because I was a tiny kid growing up. So doing whatever I could to be as successful as I could at that specific level, and then with the sights on what was just that little step afterwards.
Before we move on to talking about pro career, but there's a lot of guys at our tournaments that are in that spot where they're in an academy, and they have to make that decision whether they want to try to go, MLS next pro, right, or the college route. So
Sure.
could you just touch on how the development from the college route was the best decision for you, if it was, how it helped, and your advice to those guys?
Yeah, so all I can really speak on is my experience and the route that I went. I'll say it again, not everyone's journey is the same. I think from one kid to the next, it can change drastically. There's a whole lot of opportunities that exist today that weren't there when I was growing up. So the academy system, the whole MLS Next Pro, that wasn't there. So my route of going to college was the best for me. It certainly helped them in my development. I had great coaches, great trainers, great physical therapists, strength and conditioning coaches, that I learned what it took, the mentality it took, the hours it took. For instance, in college, I was, obviously you stay your fall and spring semesters, but I stayed with a group of guys over summer as well. So we were putting in the work. So that taught me what it took to really develop and get to the next level. It kind of showed me what that transitioned very well to the professional sense as well, where I understood that the work wasn't just put in the season. It took a full off season of training as well to prepare you for that season coming up too. So my route of going the college way was absolutely necessary for me to make the jump to the next level as well.
How was that transition from the college to pro level? What were the hardships, and what advice would you have to anybody obviously trying to make
Yeah. So I had every step that I took as an athlete, whether it was from club to college to pro, there was a bit of a learning phase for me. So it was never I got to the next phase and I totally excelled. Freshman year of college, I was getting minutes, but I think I started 2 games in my freshman year. So there was a huge learning curve for me of, okay, what do I need to do to be able to perform at this level? So it took my whole freshman year, and then my sophomore year, I was a main starter. Same thing with professional. It took me about a year and a half, 2 years, maybe even 2.5 years of soaking up all I could in terms of learning from coaches, developing physically, developing mentally, learning the pace of the professional game. There was always a learning curve for me, but it was the mentality and the effort that I put into it that allowed me to excel and jump at each stage of my career.
Yeah, 3 more questions.
Sure.
So touch on Kansas City soccer in particular. Maybe what makes it special, and think about like 2013 MLS Cup final. You're walking up to take a corner kick, and the whole stadium's singing their shot songs, right?
Yeah.
What are the emotions during that time, and what did you feel from a player perspective?
Yeah, Kansas City soccer is it's become quite special. We've had we've certainly had our growth period, right? So I never really played in the Arrowhead phases, but I was certainly there for the Community America Ballpark phase, and then the whole rebranding, the new stadium. I feel very lucky to have been there at each of those stages because it has allowed me to appreciate what we have at Sporting now. It's a very special stadium. It's a very special fan base. One that I have appreciated so much in my career. They were such a driving force in just like propelling us and making that home field advantage a huge one for us. People, I just played in the TST tournament recently, and it's a huge group of recently retired pros who, of course, are going to reminisce about their playing days, and so many of those guys were like, "Oh man, going in and playing at your guys' stadium was brutal. We hated playing in your place. It was almost like we knew we were going to lose before we even stepped on the field." And that's the stuff that as a player, I love hearing, and the fans were such a big part of that. So they were on their feet the whole game. They were out at MLS Cup when it was 10 degrees, if that. Packed stadium, still singing from opening kickoff to the through the penalty kick. So it's just the relationship that we had between club, player, and fan was I felt it was a super special one that really drove so much of our success.
So I guess obviously maybe, I don't know if it actually is, but I would say one of the highlights of your career, 2014 World Cup.
Sure.
Obviously you also won the Gold Cup with the national team. Can you just talk to us about the experiences, that World Cup?
Yeah.
Obviously that's the highlight, I feel like the pinnacle of any professional's career. So.
Right, yeah. Any chance that you get to represent your country at that level was, each time you just had these, it's like a different kind of feeling. It's a different representation, and the fact that I was able to go to Brazil with the team was such a special feeling for me. And not only that, I felt like I was representing Kansas City as well, not just my country. I truly felt that myself and Matt Beasler, the two of us went there, representing Kansas City. So seeing the watch parties while we were down in Brazil, so much of it was Kansas City was getting tons of footage, people packing the downtown Power and Light District. It was special for us, and the welcome we got coming back. But yeah, it was that certainly is. It feels like a pinnacle moment in your career, playing in that tournament, and I felt so much of the love when we got back, and seeing a lot of the footage back in the States. The fact that it was based in Kansas City was really cool. And now we're going to be hosting 2026 World Cup as well. You know, I've got no doubt that we're going to do the city proud.
Side note before we ask the last thing, when you're on the field against some of these guys, is there ever that thought in your head like, oh shit, like this is Ronaldo, or is it like you have a job and that's all you're thinking?
Yeah, I think at that point you have to understand that you're there for a reason as well, and you deserve to be there, and the team deserves to be there. And I think the game against Portugal was probably our best game that we played as a whole, and I truly believe we deserve to win that one. But yeah, I think as soon as you start thinking about the other team or worrying about a player on the opposing team, you can kind of lose yourself. So you're ultra focused on what you want to do going into the game, and all that other outside noise kind of disappears in those moments, and I think that's when you become successful. Yeah.
So last thing, you can piggyback onto this. Our sort of message here, what we do, what you guys do at this camp, is giving kids the opportunity to go to that next level. They may not be able to afford it.
Sure.
Right? Pay to play is a big thing. We understand that's infrastructure to U.S. soccer, but there's guys maybe like Roger, many talented players who can't get to that next level without support. I was just wondering if you could speak for what you guys are doing with this camp that makes those opportunities so special to help young athletes.
For sure, and I can speak from experience myself that I was helped out in my youth days as well about whether it was club fees or tournament fees. I was fortunate enough to have some really special people around me and close family friends that helped out when my family needed it. But you hear so many stories around the world about some of the best players in the world are discovered playing in the streets, and I think the U.S. has so many of those people who are maybe falling through the cracks, who don't get the exposure because they're unable to afford maybe whether it's the club fees or camp fees or tournament fees. So I think it's so important to have people out there who are whether it's scholarshiping these young athletes and players, just for them to be seen and to make that jump to the next level. Because all it takes is one tournament, one college experience, one camp, for these guys to be seen and truly make that jump. And it's going to be good for soccer in this country as well. These players can't be falling through the cracks. It's not happening as much in other countries, and it shouldn't be happening here. So what you guys are doing is excellent. I'm fully supportive of it, and it needs to be happening more. And I think there's people out there who want to help. They've got the resources to help out. They might not know the avenues to do it. So getting the word out is super important as well.